The package that America promised will include some long-range missiles that actually can seriously damage Russian capacity to wage war. And we do see everyday reports that Ukraine is attacking Russian factories that are producing parts for missiles and drones. This is the only way is to deny Putin a success on the battlefield, is to basically take his military-industrial base out of function.
Let's move across the Atlantic now and talk about what could be a hugely significant development in global politics. This is Donald Trump promising to send massive supplies of American weapons for use in Ukraine and threatening Russia with very severe tariffs. Here he is speaking in the White House last night.
We are very unhappy, I am, with Russia, but we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means.
We're joined now by Orysia Lutsevych, Deputy Director of the Russia and Eurasia Programme and Head of the Ukraine Forum at Chatham House. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we'll start with the weapons then, to be sold to European countries by the US to give to Ukraine, including air defence missiles. Is this a game changer?
Well, it's clearly something that now we have clarity that United States is ready to sell its weapons to Ukraine, because something that for the last 6 months people pondered, both in Kiev and European capitals, whether Trump at all will allow US weapons to flow into Ukraine. We knew that he would be doing something different from Biden, and it's visible. On one hand, he says, I'm not giving it for free, I'm selling it, so America is making money. And second, I'm doing it with NATO, something that Biden was trying to shun in a dark corner, not to show that NATO is in any way involved in supporting Ukraine's resistance against Russian aggression.
And the threat of 100% secondary tariffs on Russia from the US, Donald Trump made that last night. That sounds incredibly tough. But what sort of impact will it have on the Russian economy if he goes through with it? Because one of the stories of the past 3 years now has been the surprising resilience in some respects of the Russian economy, evading sanctions, transition to a war economy. It hasn't been the complete apocalypse that some people might have expected in February 2022. So what sort of impact would the tariffs have?
Yeah, you're right. First of all, let's remember that Russia prepared for the war. Russia perhaps didn't expect such harsh sanctions, especially in the banking sector, but they were working on bypassing, creating alternative supply routes. Now, as we speak right now, there are two options on the table. One, what Trump was talking about, the tariffs on Russian goods. But let's be honest, there's not much that Russia supplies to the United States. But there's also a sanction bill that Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal are proposing in the Senate that will actually sanction countries who import Russian oil, such as India, China, Brazil. This is a much more serious, I would say, bill that could undermine the inflows of cash into Russian budget from these markets, because they are enormous. This is where Russia actually is making most of its income to finance the war.
Andy, you were talking earlier about this government. The British government has a reputation for saying things then not doing them or doing the opposite. I mean, Donald Trump is developing a reputation, on Wall Street they call it taco, Trump always chickens out, for making big, bold threats and not following through with them. And, if you're Vladimir Putin listening to all these developments, you might perhaps think, well, we've seen in the recent weeks that he doesn't necessarily live up to his own talk.
Yeah, you might want to give it a week if you're. That'll probably be the thinking from Vladimir Putin. But look, as alluded to, the issue you hear around the oil cash, that's the thing that seems most interesting here. Threats are one thing, but if that comes in as a concrete policy, then that would put a stranglehold around the Kremlin. It would make it more difficult to operate, and it would force the Kremlin to make decisions between continuing to finance the war effort and, of course, keeping services running at home as you would expect. Like all dictatorships, I think feel relatively comfortable in describing that, despite the democratic trappings in Russia. Support is usually thinner than people think, and it doesn't take that much at home domestically to disrupt that. So that will be one he will be thinking about, I think.
And Orysia, Andy makes a good point there in terms of getting into Putin's mind. I mean, only he knows his own mind, obviously, but Trump has spoken to the BBC overnight. He phoned up the reporter Gary O'Donoghue from the Oval Office while Gary was asleep, and he said he's disappointed but not done with Putin. Clearly something has changed in Trump's mind. I think he's realised that the Russian president perhaps didn't have the most favourable view of his intellect or strategic grasp of the situation. But we know what Donald Trump is thinking, or we can guess what Donald Trump is thinking. What do you think, as Andy says, will Putin be thinking if Donald Trump follows through with the worst of these threats?
Well, Putin is right now putting all the bets on this summer campaign. He is trying to push as hard as possible to achieve his minimum objective of trying to at least reach the administrative borders of Donetsk region. And this is honestly will be nearly impossible. But he is, we've heard from NATO summit, getting wrong information. He feels very emboldened that he, despite enormous losses and huge attrition, is winning this war. And this is actually what we see from reporting. Trump also thinks that eventually Russia will win this war. This is perception that so much matters in shaping policy. So Putin has a fantastic grace period of 50 days, as Trump gave it to him, again, to adjust and to see where he can find loopholes to prepare if the tariffs hit him. On the other hand, he has put all of his economy into the war machine, and that is what fuels and sustains Russian economy. It's the payments to mercenary soldiers that are hired. It's the Russian military factories that are working 3 shifts. It's all the trade with Asian markets, and also huge military assistance from North Korea. Let's not forget that they're receiving millions of artillery shells from there. So Putin doesn't feel like he has to budge. I think until he is severely curtailed financially and militarily, because let's remember the package that America promised will include some long-range missiles that actually can seriously damage Russian capacity to wage war. And we do see everyday reports that Ukraine is attacking Russian factories that are producing parts for missiles and drones. This is the only way, is to deny Putin a success on the battlefield, is to basically take his military industrial base out of function.
Well, Orysia Lutsevych, Deputy Director of the Russia and Eurasia Programme and Head of the Ukraine Forum at Chatham House, thank you very much for joining us.